And we're joined now by the Irish Prime Minister on the occasion of the meeting of the British-Irish Council, meeting virtually, I should say. Micheál Martin is with us, and Taoiseach, thank you very much indeed. Could I ask you, first of all, what the outcome of this US presidential election, either way, means for your country, for Ireland?
Well, as you know, Ireland has a very strong and enduring relationship with the United States. It's a very rich and enduring partnership, economically, socially, culturally, and of course through our many ties with families and friends. And the Irish-American diaspora plays a very active role on both sides of the aisle, and clearly that was manifest in this fascinating election, which has resulted in extraordinary numbers coming out to vote and an extraordinary demonstration of electoral democracy at work. And obviously it's a very close call, and trends are emerging in certain directions. But we're looking forward to continuing that relationship with the newly elected president. Sorry, whoever gets elected in the coming while. We're looking forward to working with that democratically elected president.
As a champion of democracy yourself, would you say that it is right that every vote should be counted in this presidential election?
Absolutely. Every vote should be counted and has to be counted. And I admire what is happening, and I've watched it with great interest over the last number of days. And the organisation of the vote and the attention to detail and the affirmation by those responsible for the counts that everything that is possible is being done to ensure the integrity of the vote. And I think it is worth watching, and I think it's very important that as broadcasters have continually stressed the need to count every vote and to make every vote count.
Now that, of course, is not what Donald Trump is saying. And does it surprise you that the spokesman for the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has this morning, when being questioned by journalists, repeatedly refused to say what you've just said, that every vote should be counted?
Well, I'm not responsible for what others say, and I wasn't privy to what you've just said there. But from our perspective, that relationship with the United States, it's the oldest democracy in the world. The Irish did a lot to build America, and through many presidential elections, there has been an Irish imprint, an Irish influence, and this election is no different from both sides. The Irish-American diaspora playing a role in both campaigns, and that reflects that relationship I spoke to earlier. But what is clear to me, though, is that people in America wanted to have their say. They came out in large numbers, those who voted early in terms of mail-in votes and those who voted on election day. And because of the coronavirus, I think it was a very wise way of organising the election in the manner in which it was organised. And I've watched over the last number of days, as best I can, on the TV screens and so on, but it's very clear to me that the various administrators in the various counties and in the various states are doing everything they can to protect the integrity of the vote and to make sure that every citizen's vote is counted. And that's the way it should be. And despite all of what is being said, I think that is coming through. That is coming through to any audience that's watching this, that this has been well organised, and attention is being paid to detail, and people have a route to redress if people feel that they have issues, and that those routes to redress are there.
Now let's talk about the British-Irish Council. With the UK leaving the European Union, I suppose this is going to be the main body of collaboration between the UK and Ireland going forward. Are you satisfied that there is sufficient coordination across the islands that we share to really deal with this COVID outbreak?
Well, I think this morning's meeting was very useful in that respect, and it was hosted by Nicola Sturgeon, as you know, and First Minister of Scotland, and I think we worked and discussed the need for greater coordination, but also to share each other's approaches, each other's science, data analytics, in terms of how we can continue to get the right level of restrictions that enables us to keep our economies going and to keep people at work. There's an acknowledgement that there's an ongoing need for better coordination. But that said, there was no doubt this morning in terms of the degree of the impact of COVID-19 on our respective economies and the need really to keep on top of this virus. And thankfully in Ireland, the trajectory is now downwards. We're at the highest level of restrictions here at the moment. We had been at a lower level, but we decided to increase the level of restrictions. And the combination of the last number of weeks is resulting in a significant reduction in the number of cases. We still have some distance to go. We're on a 6-week lockdown to the end of November, started 2 weeks ago, and we intend to keep the pressure on the virus so that we can open up again in December and beyond into the months of January, February and March, and hopefully a vaccine will arrive towards the end of the year that will give some hope to people for 2021.
Now, as far as Brexit goes, Donald Trump's envoy to Brussels, one of his envoys, has told journalists that the European Union would be prepared to use cutting off air travel as leverage against the UK to try and reach agreement over the current negotiations. Is that true?
I haven't heard that being discussed at EU Council meetings, nor indeed on the margins of such meetings, and I've attended some key meetings now in the context of Brexit, most notably on the 15th of October, where we had a very comprehensive presentation from Michel Barnier. I think my own engagement with the President of the Commission and indeed with Michel Barnier has been that Europe is very focused on the intensive negotiations that have now been underway for quite some weeks, and negotiations have intensified, to be fair. And indeed, at the big meeting this morning, the British Irish Council meeting this morning, I think Secretary Michael Gove gave a good presentation as well, and I think we all expressed a common desire that the optimal outcome now for our citizens and for those we represent is to get a sensible, comprehensive trade agreement that prevents any further shocks to the economy and further challenges to people. So I got a sense this morning that the talks are continuing with that level of intensity that is required. There are issues around the level playing field in terms of the UK's access to the single market, that there would be a level playing field, and also discussion around fisheries and the importance of fisheries, that sustainable fish stocks into the future, and of course the issue of governance. So I hope, and my view is that as political representatives, we owe to the people that we represent to ensure that common sense prevails and that we get an agreement here that protects jobs and protects our respective economies, because we've had one hell of a shock from COVID. It's been very damaging to our economies. COVID has, it's created a lot of unemployment. The last thing we need now is a no-deal Brexit that would just add significantly to that type of negative shock, which people could do without now.
Finally, Taoiseach, a domestic matter you'll know far more about than I do. I understand it's been reported that your deputy and, of course, political rival, Dr. Leo Varadkar, has leaked confidential medical information with potential commercial value to friends. What is your response to that?
Well, I think we dealt with that comprehensively last week. It refers to actions in the last government when the Taoiseach and Leo Varadkar at the time, he sent an agreement that had been arrived at with the representatives of the GPs, the Irish Medical Organisation, to the head of another medical organisation which hadn't been a party to the negotiations. He did so with a view to getting the GP's support for that agreement. It was subsequently signed on by most, if not all, GPs in the country. He has apologised for an error of judgment on his behalf. I have said that it was the wrong thing to do, the wrong way to do things. It was not best practice. I think the Taoiseach, or our deputy leader, has acknowledged that. He has apologised in the Dáil for that error of judgment, and that's, I think, there was a very comprehensive presentation to the Dáil this week on it.
OK, thank you very much indeed for that, and thank you for joining us. Micheál Martin, the Irish Prime Minister.